Lesson 9.2, Solving Equations by Completing the Square. Let's look at Explain 2. We're going to solve the equation x squared minus 4x equals 3. We first need to find the value that will complete the square and make the left side a perfect square trinomial. We can do that by finding our b value is a -4. If you take half of the b and square it, so half of -4 is -2, and -2 squared is 4, and add that to both sides, you will have a perfect square trinomial on the left, and you have to add it on the right so you keep it equal and balanced for your equation. Because you have an equal sign, only adding the 4 to one side would make it unbalanced. Add it to both sides to keep a balanced, equal equation. We have now made the left side a perfect square trinomial. It is now factorable as x minus 2, quantity squared. We can easily get the factor by taking half of the b, and that will give you your value for your factor. 3 plus 4 is 7. Now take the square root of both sides. Remember to take the plus or minus square root of your value. So taking the square root plus or minus square root of the 7 gives you x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 7. 7 is a prime number, so we cannot go any further to simplify. Notice it says plus or minus 7, square root of 7. So make two equations, one being a positive square root of 7 and one being a negative square root of 7. So you can solve each of those to find your two solutions. To solve, we'll add 2 to both sides. Notice that it's best to put the 2 in front of the plus square root of 7 and the 2 in front of the minus square root of 7. We'll write our solutions in set notation, least to greatest. So the 2 minus square root of 7 would be smaller than adding square root of 7. Let's look at another example. Example B. We have x squared plus 16x equals 36. Let's find the b value, which is 16. Take half of the b and square it to know what value will complete the square to have a perfect square. Half of 16 is 8. 8 squared is 64. So we're going to add 64 to both sides. So we have 1x squared, the 1's not necessary to write, plus 16x plus 64. That makes a perfect square trinomial. Bring down your 36 and add 64 so that you keep your equation balanced. Plus 8, quantity squared. The right-hand side, add together 36 and 64. We get a 100. You can now take the square root of both sides to solve. So we get 1x plus 8 equals plus or minus 10. Be sure to include your plus or minus sign when taking the square root of a number. Let's make our two equations. We have 1x plus 8 equals positive 10, or 1x plus 8 equals negative 10. If it equals positive and negative 10, separate it out to make the two equations. Subtract 8 to solve. 10 minus 8 is 2. and negative 10 minus 8 is negative 18. So our solution in least to greatest order will be negative 18, positive 2. Let's look at number 5. We're going to solve by completing the square. Start first by identifying your b value. To know what value to add, you will take half of the b and square it. So negative 10 divided by 2 squared is negative 5, squared is positive 25. Be sure to add that value to both sides of the equation. The left side is now factorable. That was the whole point in completing the square, is so you can make a trinomial that is factorable. The right side, you just add the values. Now take the square root to solve. The square root of 36 is 6. Be sure to have plus or minus around your number. When we add 5 to both sides, we get x equals 5 plus or minus 6. So take 5 plus 6 and 5 minus 6 to find your two solutions. 5 minus 6 is negative 1. 5 plus 6 is 11. Number 6. Start by finding your b value. Take half of the b squared to know what value to add to make it a perfect square. Half of 6 is 3, and then 3 squared is 9. So add 9 to both sides. Be sure to add 9 to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced and equal. The left side is now a perfect square trinomial. We can factor that as x plus 3. To find that, just take half of your b value and it gives you your factor. When we take the square root, squaring and square root cancel one another out to leave you x plus 3. Be sure to take the plus or minus square root of the 11. 11 is a prime number, therefore we cannot simplify it any further. Subtract 3 on both sides. So we get x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11. Write your solutions in set notation, least to greatest order. So negative 3 minus square root 11 is smaller than negative 3 plus square root 11.